Hey folks, today we're going to start the terrarium thing out with some small projects, some like really tiny terrariums. We've got a couple of cool little bits of glass. We're going to put those together right after this. Hey YouTube, this is Pecktec.
And I'm Kerrigan.
And we're gonna build some really tiny terrariums today. So I'm pretty excited to do this. We've kind of had a huge build up towards making terrariums. And I did like a little paludarium, was kind of like my little, get my feet wet, but that was a completely different type of project really. Today we're gonna make some closed container terrariums, and at my local hobby store I found a couple of unique ones. This one's gonna be pretty tricky. It's got a really small opening. KP's also is pretty small, much more to work with in terms of the opening and stuff, but she has kind of a fun idea. What did you want to do with yours?
So I found this piece of wood, and I had these
That's cholla wood.
Yeah.
It's actually a cactus.
I found this cactus. And I was looking through, and I used to have these dragon egg looking things in some of my first aquariums, so I'm going to incorporate that in and maybe make a little nest.
And these dragon eggs, or these are like little glass Easter egg balls, or Easter egg things. We put them in an aquarium a long time ago. I think one of your first aquariums.
Was my first aquarium.
Was it?
Yeah.
And it's just been hanging around with all my hardscape stuff, around with all the other things that are just kind of hanging around.
We're going to put them to good use today.
Yeah, I always thought it would be neat to make like a little dragon egg scene inside of an aquarium, but you know, a terrarium works too. It'd be a lot of fun. Of course, now I've got the light bulb. So I've got this light bulb container, and I'm not going to go for any particular type of theme. I found a piece of wood that might be skinny enough if I break it into a million pieces to put in here, and we're just going to kind of see what we can do with this.
We're just going to have fun today.
Yeah, it's just going to be kind of a fun, get the terrarium thing started project. We're going to finally pull some stuff out of these propagation bins and begin putting them into play in some of these terrariums. You ready to get started?
Let's go.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a drainage layer.
All right.
Now for mine, I'm going to have to like put these in
one at a time.
One at a time. I've actually got a little screen in here. I need to get it pulled out. Yeah, I have a feeling I'll be needing my little tweezers and stuff that I've got here. All right, so what we have here, we're going to make a drainage layer. This is really important for closed terrariums. The idea is that water's going to collect down in this drainage layer. It'll evaporate up, get stuck on the glass, and then pass right back through. So we're going to do a drainage layer, and then the next thing, I've already cut out some screen. This is some like nylon window screen, and I've cut it out so that we can kind of make a little barrier there. Then we're going to add some active carbon, which is like way over here. Then we're going to add some active carbon, and I just have some like aquariums. This is from one of the many aquariums I put together from some kit, and I'm just going to cut this open, and we're going to split it between these two because I think this is more than enough for both of these. Our next layer is going to be like a tropical mix, and I've already mixed that up. It's a little big to put on the table. If you'd like to know the recipe for that, I've already talked about it a little bit. In fact, I'm going to start a terrarium playlist, and you can find it in there, one of the beginning videos. Then after that, we can be creative with whatever space that's left.
Yeah.
And with all this, the amount of this stuff that you use is directly proportional to the size of the container. So you're not going to need a whole lot, maybe an inch or so, and some of these rocks are pretty big. You can use a lot of different things for the drainage layer. Today I'm using like some El Cheapo pebbles. I bought a giant bag of these pebbles, and we're just going to use that. Now I need to pull, I put my little cut piece of cloth in here already, so I got that pulled out. Let's go ahead and add some pebbles.
Ooh. Don't you just love the sound of clinking glass?
Yeah, I'm just hoping I don't end up breaking this stupid thing.
Put it on its side.
Oh, that would be smarter, right?
Like that.
Yeah, okay.
So it rolls down like a slide.
I don't think I'm going to need a whole lot. You might, maybe just a little bit more. All right, that's got to be enough for this one. I think I actually went too far on this one. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put, and this is just, this is some window screen. I've cut it out to be a little bit bigger than I think I'm going to need, so it'll kind of go up on the sides. For mine, I'm going to have to kind of tease it in there. What this is going to do is it's going to keep the soil and everything else from making its way down into here and like clogging it up, making the evaporation process less effective and stuff. And what you can do too is you can throw a rock or two down to kind of hold it in place while you work. Not a lot, just maybe a couple here and there. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get into this carbon, and I'm just going to rip it open a little bit. I'm going to add it, I just need a little bit. So what the carbon's for? So the water is going to go down and drain down to the bottom. It's going to evaporate up and get stuck on the glass, and it's going to make its way back down through to the rocks again. So every time it passes through, this carbon's going to clean it a little bit, and it'll keep it from getting moldy and having all kinds of weird issues. So I'm going to add a little bit in here. And you just need, and shake it all around. You just need a little bit of a layer in there. I think that's maybe a little bit more. That's probably okay. And go ahead and just do it like an evenly disperse it. So you got your mesh up on the sides. Let's see.
I think so. There's one little gap there, if that's about it.
Yeah, that looks all right. This is a little high on this side. See if we can even it out just a little bit. Okay, that looks good. Got a little bit left over. We'll save that for another project. I'll just put it aside. All right, so the next layer we're going to do is going to be the tropical mix. And the tropical mix is in this big bucket down here. Just try to get a little bit of everything. I'm going to put this in here because I think I'm going to make a mess.
More than likely.
Tropical mix, without giving you the exact recipe again, is basically soil, sand, sphagnum moss, a little bit of orchid bark, and that's it. That's all I'm putting in mine anyway. So what you want on here is roughly like maybe a little bit, about twice as much as you had in your drainage. Now your drainage layer, because we use these big pebbles, is going to be kind of bulky. So just kind of put some in there, and then you can compact it a little bit too. If you run it, some of these pieces of orchid bark are pretty huge too, so you can just kind of avoid those if you want. This is not working for me.
Time for the tweezers yet again.
This is quite challenging.
I think that's a good layer.
That looks pretty good. That's very thick. I don't know. Yeah, I would just kind of go through here and like any of these like big twiggy things, we can pull them out. Okay, so our next step, I guess let's work on our hardscape.
Woohoo!
Or let's plan for the hardscape. We might, in your case, I would definitely that's going to take up a lot of space in there, so you might want to go ahead and put it in, kind of see what you're working with. For me, I'm going to see what I can actually get into this tiny jar. And this thing is neat looking, but I can already tell, like visually, you're not going to be able to see a whole lot through it, so not sure what I'll really be able to accomplish in terms of hardscape and stuff.
For mine, this piece of wood's kind of at an angle, so I'm going to push some of this further back, so I have a nice display here.
got a couple of pieces of wood kind of sticking up and looking interesting that way. This is a cast off piece of manzanita wood. It's like the only piece of wood I had that was small enough to like really go into here. So we need to add some distilled water to this at some point. I don't know if we should do it in the beginning or the end.
I don't know, you're the terrarium dude.
Well, I'm not though.
You're the aspiring terrarium dude.
I think what I want to do is I want to go ahead and add a little bit now. And we want to go be do a very small amount. We're going to start off with a really small amount. If you've put too much water in your terrarium, you can cause problems too. And basically it's, if your terrarium's always covered in water and covered in moisture in the top, you probably got too much and you should lift the top off and let it air out a little bit. It does, you will see moisture on the glass, but it should be like in the morning and then in the evening you should see it, and then in between it should actually be fairly clear on the sides. At least that's what I've been told. So you don't think you'll be using any of these things? You don't really have much room in there, do you?
No.
We'll put these away for another project, but there's some good stuff in here.
Maybe I should.
It kind of looks like a dragon laid an egg in a tree stump. Kind of neat.
Add an egg too.
Nice. We'll just have to do that where they won't fall over very easy. You might need to add some more stuff to the middle of that. You want some rocks or something a little harder?
Yeah. Okay. A little bit of rocks. Then we're going to put the stuff that looks like a nest back in there, on top of the rocks. Okay.
You could add moss in there too, maybe.
I'm going to add some moss in, like creeping into the wood, I think.
Onto the wood, and all around the sides of it and stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
Alright, and then now we layer our eggs. That's much better. Distilled water time?
Yeah, just add a little bit of distilled water in there. Maybe a little bit more. So we'll let it drain in. You want to probably put enough water like to just
Fill that bottom layer.
That top lip or something like that. A lot of it will get absorbed by all the moss and stuff in there. There it goes.
Splash more.
No, I think it's good. That's probably a good amount. Let's start with that and just kind of see what it does.
See what do.
All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to pull out some moss and plants. You want some moss first?
Yes. Give me that moss.
And these are our propagation bins. Where I've been trying to grow little bits of moss. They've been doing pretty well. I can't really tell if it's increased its population at all. But I'm looking down here and I see my springtails are still alive, so that's good.
They're hanging out?
I got this app that supposedly can identify plants, and I've been curious to see if it will actually work. Wow, I got some like little plants coming up in here.
You do.
I wonder what those are. So I found this app that's called Picture This, and the startup screen is this thing, which is like trying to get you to pay $30 a year. There's a small little invisible X at the top. We're going to click that and not pay $30. All right, so on this app there's a little camera icon at the bottom. I'm going to press that, and I want to see if it'll do moss. So now it's recording my screen. Oh, I see.
So you can go picture this.
All right. Kerrigan just showed me something my phone can do that I did not know it would do.
That is my required duty of being in Generation Z, so.
All right, we're going to go through and identify this moss using the Picture It app without paying any money. And we'll see how it does. I don't actually know enough about this moss to prove it right or wrong, but it is like at least trying to guess. Barcody moss?
Or
perhaps.
Brocade.
All right, and this one over here is
Delicate fern moss.
Delicate fern moss, which is what it said this one is. And they look like they're probably the same.
Yeah.
And let's do this last kind of moss, because I got like 3 different kinds here. Broom fork moss. And what's neat too is it'll give you, it says Broom fork moss is a tough, coarse moss that is native to North America. It typically grows in clumps and leaves approximately 8 to 3 inches high. Broom fir moss can be found growing among other mosses in forested areas and in dry, moist soil.
Dry, moist.
Dry, moist.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the same, right?
Yeah, totally not opposites.
So, any one of these mosses calling out to you?
Well.
Let's see if I can do this, like, say, there's the little screen again. No. I want to see if it'll do this little tiny plant. There's no way. I mean, it's too small, right?
Probably. It could be 90% of plants.
Oh, I tried to guess. Sarcomas kakakakasabada kakawa. Did you see what it
Looks like Sarsacomatasi.
Cool.
I kind of don't think that's it, but nice try.
All right, so let's moss it up.
I'm thinking this one looks a little more dragony,
Okay.
unless you would like that one.
Well, this clump is kind of all on its own here. How much of it do you think you'll need? Why don't you just take,
gonna layer some of the sides. Yeah.
Take that. I want to use some of this broom moss, possibly. I'm just going to take a little chunk of it out here.
Is this good? Just like shove it in there.
I guess so.
Is that what you do?
Is that what I do
Yeah.
on my first terrarium? I don't know.
Is that what you would do?
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to make some like ground cover with it.
It's always good to cover the ground.
Too big? Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe. Alright. I'm going to just kind of put a couple of larger clumps in here. So technically these would be native terrariums because these are all things that I got from our local forest. And I did it respectfully using Tanner from Serpe Designs suggestions where I took the moss and I grabbed a clump of it and then I kind of fixed it so it looks like it's still covered the way it's supposed to. I didn't take all of it on the specimens that I took. I tried to be respectful. Yeah, I've never done the ship in the bottle thing where you can only access it with tweezers. That seems remarkably difficult. And I think in mine, I don't want it to be all the same. I want to put like a little clump of a different kind of moss in there.
Good thinking.
So I'm going to take this one and add it in also.
I'm going to return this real quick.
Okay. And you're welcome to grab another kind of moss if you want.
No.
Please just go in here and live.
Please, I want to make a nice home for you.
I'm putting a tiny amount of the other mosses in here too. And we're going to see what lives. This trial run is also to kind of like make sure all the stuff that I think I know about terrariums is going to work before I invest in a much bigger one. Guess it's train o'clock.
Well, it's noon.
Oh, it looks cool, that little plant.
It's neat.
Little tiny plant in there.
It's like in WALL-E when they come back to Earth.
Yeah, it does. It looks like the little plant from WALL-E that they find. Oh, these are pretty small. You think you got all the moss you're going to use?
I think so.
These are pretty small, and there's not a lot of plants that are going to fit in here, but I do have a big bin full of plants. I thought we'd pull it out and kind of take a look. Make sure these are good to go. So here's my other tub, and it's full of a lot of plants that are not going to fit in this because I pulled a bunch out of the steampunk aquarium and other things. I actually did a video about pulling all this stuff out. We have a few more plants to identify in here. All right, so let's picture this again. And we're gonna do new. And I wanna identify this little tiny plant right here. What do we got?
Partridge berry.
Yeah, partridge berry, okay. I found a whole lot of partridge berry. And I think that would probably fit in with the scale. Would you like a little bit of that?
I would love some partridge berry.
So I'm just going to pull a little bit of this out. We have a lot.
Come on, partridge berry.
That should leave, maybe is enough for both of us. We'll see.
I'd say.
That'll be a nice, kind of a leafy contrast plant for your aquarium. Or your terrarium. What are we doing? I'm not going to put a ton of stuff in here. Because frankly, this is a nightmare. I'm hoping it looks neat, like in the long run, and that everything grows and it looks really cool. But
Retweet.
yeah, you don't want to cover up the moss too much, and you don't want to cover up your actual thing. You want it to just kind of have a sense of it. Oh yeah, you can kind of like let it come up and sort of be a background for it almost. It's really hard to like do anything specific inside a little tiny thing like this. You're more or less adding plants and hoping that it ends up looking nice as you go. All right, I'm going to find something to kind of clean the sides of this. I'll be right back. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do is we're going to add some springtails.
All right.
I've got a springtail culture that's been going here for, a few weeks. My culture is still pretty new, and I put most of them in the bins, and I could see them running around in the bins pretty well.
I have noticed whenever I planted some, they carried along into here as well.
All right, so we're just going to put a few in here. You can also do this by just kind of like taking some of the water, and maybe that's what I'll do. If you tilt it up, because there's water in the bottom of this, if you tilt it up, can you still see me?
Yeah.
You can sort of just pour them in with the water. Oh yeah, I'm seeing them come out that way.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the same over here in this one. Enjoy your fun, little guys.
Have a happy life.
Enjoy your new home. I dumped a little bit of the charcoal on the top there too. All right, so adding the springtails makes this bioactive, and what it'll do is they eat mold and stuff like that, so things that normally develop in here. They'll also, as leaves degenerate and things start to die out in here, they'll kind of go in there and eat, and they should just live, in theory, for a long, long period of time. So now we just seal them up, and we'll put them on display. You can put something like this in your window. If it doesn't get a lot of light, I've got a little thing set up upstairs where I can sit and look at it with the light that shines on it. So that's probably where these will end up. And I guess that's all we got for you this week. Doing something a little bit different. We're going to come back next week and finish up the tank that I started with it's been finished for a day or two. I wanted to let it sit. I couldn't decide how I wanted to go with some of the things while I was making it. So I wanted to let it sit for a bit, but it's looking really great now. I'm going to show you how I planted it, and we'll talk about what I'm going to put in it and all that sort of stuff too. That's all coming up this week. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, follow your bliss.
Keep it clean, terrarium.
And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That is native to North America, and that's where we are. That wasn't that funny. Thank you for not laughing. We'll work up to some bigger projects. Maybe bye. Hey YouTube, this is Pecktec.
I'm Carrie. Try it again.
Hey.
Embarrassed me.
Make a weird sound for the video.
Make a weird sound for the video.
Make some weird sounds. We like it when you make the weird sounds.
I like the terrariums.
Terrariums.
We're in East Tennessee.
East
It's
Tennessee.
perfect.